Okay, so the second weekend of the Rugby World Cup has begun. France were playing Uruguay up in Lille. Obviously, the temperatures have dropped from where they were last weekend. There's a cooler front over northern France, so no water breaks. It was at half time. It was 13-5 to France. At full time, 27-12. This did not go to script. The French were poor. At one point, Uruguay led. They had a try disallowed. If that try stands, the way the momentum's going, France were all over the place. Uruguay played like a team. France played like individuals. Now, yes, you can say they made changes from the game against New Zealand. Against New Zealand, France didn't play particularly well. Just New Zealand played so badly in the second half. The scoreline flattered France to a certain extent. And tonight, the same story applies with the B team out. The scoreline flatters the French. The Uruguayans played as a unit, had a game plan. Their defence was fantastic. The only area really where there was major concern was the scrum, but then that became a mess, and neither side gained dominance in the scrum because the amount of penalties was back and forth. But Uruguay were fantastic value for money, and we nearly had possibly the greatest World Cup shock of all time. And honestly, if execution was a bit better, if handling errors weren't there, that little bit of experience at test level, which these tier 2 and tier 3 nations, they don't play enough test matches. That's a problem. That's a problem that needs to be resolved by World Rugby, is making giving the lesser nations more test matches. The old American Rugby Championship, which used to involve Canada, USA, Uruguay, Brazil, and Chile, doesn't exist anymore, which is their version of the Six Nations. Get that competition up and running again, because this Uruguay team have improved massively over the last 10 years. Massively from where they were in 2015 and 2019. They have really improved, and COVID has disrupted some of that improvement. Anyway, enough of me ranting around World Rugby and the international calendar. Most of this Uruguayan team play all over the world. A lot of them play in France, a lot play Major League Rugby, some play in South America in the new South American Super Rugby formats. These are all professionals. These aren't amateur part-timers anymore. They are a professional outfit, and their defence was well coached. Jaminet, however, slots the first penalty after 3 minutes, and you're thinking that's nice. They're giving Uruguay respect. They're just going to get the scoreboard ticking over. However, Freitas's try. Now, Freitas looks quite a good winger, to be fair, on 6 minutes. That is a fantastic crossfield kick by Eteveri, the starting fly half. It's a crossfield chip kick. We've seen a fair few of these already attempted in the World Cup so far. Some have come off, some haven't. New Zealand, for example, had a good one against France. The Uruguayans have clearly had an extra week of preparation. This is their first game. They've looked at the tape of how the French started against the All Blacks. That blitz defence, they're coming in tight, they're squeezing in, and that leaves a natural overlap. I do not know what Jaminet is trying to do in trying to catch that ball. He's better served allowing the Uruguayan winger Freitas to try and catch it, because he's more likely to knock it on. Because Jaminet tries to catch it, Freitas, the decision's made for him. He just has to let it hit his leg, let it go forward, then pick up and score. And it's a brilliant try. It's a well-worked try. The hard-running lines by Villaseca, the inside centre, their captain, were fantastic. They were going route one, but also they've got some handling skills, and the Sevens programme has helped them. Now, Hashdoy, the backup fly half, he's only his fifth cap. His try on 11 minutes, the momentum swings back to France, and this is where you're thinking, okay, Uruguay are going to get blown out now. The French are going to settle. Comes off, set play. Some good lines runs a good line. And Luku helps, I think, set that play up. The inside centre does a good dummy run. So there's some good set play structure there. Jaminet converts. He then slots a penalty in 15 minutes. And you're thinking the French are now going to settle into this game. They're going to run away with it. Yeah, they were down to 14 players for 10 minutes because Tua Fifanua, second row, that's a shoulder to the head, and it's a no-arms tackle. I personally think he should have seen red. If Tom Curry sees red for his challenge, I think that should have been a red. So they're down to 14 players, and Uruguay had a try disallowed in this period. If that try stands, the momentum swings, And by the letter of the law, yeah, it's obstruction. He's got his dummy run wrong, the outside centre. And Echeverri had a very, very good game. If that dummy run pays off and he doesn't make contact with the defender he's drifting across, not that I don't think the defender gets there, mind. I think the French are all over the place at this point. Too many individualistic defensive decisions being taken rather than a normal Sean Edwards coach defence. Defensively, the French weren't great today. They were losing ground, and the Uruguayans were very, very good in their units of defence. So tries disallowed. It's unfortunate, but it is the letter of the law, and it's a fair call. It's a harsh call to take, but it's a fair call to take. So it's half time. It's 13-5. The French are looking a little bit rattled. The game is scrappy. It's not free flowing. It's not flair rugby. There's a lot of handling errors. The scrum's a mess for both sides. The French rolling ball was not effective. The Uruguayans have shut that down really well, which is a concern because that's the French pride themselves on their forward set play, and they're not getting ball off their set play easily. A lot of scrapping on the floor. The breakdown was well contested. Uruguay really disrupted very, very well. And the Uruguayans had some quick ball as well and were challenging the French defence. And the French were too individualistic in attack and in defence. They were lacking a little bit. This is how important Dupont and some of the other starters from the All Blacks game are to this French side. Some of these depth players looked a bit rusty, looked a bit clunky, but it's half time. And now, after half time, they survived the yellow card period, no points conceded. Villiers had a try disallowed for a knock on. There was a few disallowed tries in this game, actually. That's a fair one as well. Comes off his arm. When he's going for the catch, Villiers picks up the ball. He probably was actually offside anyway. Should have been probably a penalty, but they don't check for that. That's disallowed. That's on 50 minutes. And then Uruguay go down the other end and score. And this is where the French are rocking a little bit. Amaya, he's a great sevens player. So if you follow the sevens, he's a fantastic sevens player. And this is where the Uruguayans had multiple phases. From that knock-on, from the scrum. Uruguay keep hold of the ball really well for about a good 2-3 minutes. Multiple phases. Amaya finishes off a great move in the corner. It is actually a fantastic try. The French defence, again, they're coming up individually. They're not coming up as a normal Sean Edwards blitz defence or drift defence. They're trying to solve things individually. They're not working as defensive units of 3s and 4s. They're cheating up out the line. They're making mistakes. And the dummy runners this time don't obstruct the defender. And that is possibly the best try of the match. The crossfield kick, you could argue, but Amaya's try is possibly the best movement of the match. It's fantastic. The energy in the stadium, the neutrals in the stadium stand up. I think the French fans applauded it as well. There was a good Uruguayan contingent in the stadium. Now, unfortunately, they screw up. They foul up the kickoff reception. Mavaca scores his try. It's just they just screw up the reception of the kickoff. This generally happens when you score. You make sure you don't concede, and they concede, and that's where the game is won. Because Uruguay were in the game. Uruguay could have won this game. That's how bad France were. France were disjointed. They were all over the place, lacking a bit of leadership, clunky. They were wobbling at this point, and Uruguay were on top, and it's that poor kick reception that does them. So Mavaca scores his try in 55 minutes. Jaminet converts that one. Echeverri converted Amaya's try. And then it's 20 minutes of scrappiness. The Uruguayans are making things difficult. France aren't blowing Uruguay out, which was what expected at the start of the game. The Uruguayans are giving France a test match here. And this French side that was selected by Fabien Galtier, they were lacking direction at 9 and 10. The forward pack wasn't getting the dominance that they were anticipating because the scrum's now penalties either way. The scrum was a mess today, which I think suited Uruguay a little bit. The rolling maul, the French maul's not working. The Uruguayans are shutting that down almost every time. They couldn't get dominance in that area. And the Uruguayans are testing this French defence. If handling doesn't let them down, we could have seen more Uruguayan scoring. Now, Biarri scores his try on 73 minutes. He barely touched the ball. He's an electric winger. Similar to Vincent Clair and Dominici, smaller of stature, and they were great try scorers. Vincent Clair is the best try scorer in Six Nations history, and the late great Christophe Dominici, for a small man, was exceptionally powerful. Fleet of foot, was a great player in his day. Very similar. Biarri is very, very similar to those two smaller wingers with his pace. Well-deserved try in 73 minutes. Jaminet converts that. Now, the Makalou try, it's an illegal ruck, and it is a technical infringement. You can't kick the ball forwards out of a ruck if you are the counter-rucking team. You can kick it backwards, you can't kick it forwards out of the ruck anymore. That is a technical infringement. He runs half the length of the field, because Makalou can also play on the wing and in the centres. He's a very versatile player. That try is disallowed. So we've seen 3 disallowed tries. No bonus point for either side. I think that lack of bonus point for France, that could come back to bite them. The Italians look very dangerous in their opening game. They've got a young, exciting team. The French are going to have to name a full-strength team against a full-strength Italian side, because that could be a very, very potential banana skin. And the Italians have proven in the past they can upset the French. And they play with a lot of confidence. And they steamrolled weaker opposition. They went, okay, we're going to steamroll this opposition. France did not steamroll Uruguay. So there are some concerns for this French team. They're not firing on all cylinders. So it's finished 27 points to 12, and Uruguay were on the attack right up to the end. They were throwing the kitchen sink at it. They wanted to get a third try. In reality, until Mavaka's try, Uruguay could have won this. Honestly, if you didn't watch the game, you're thinking, oh, okay, France, they put out a weakened side, or they roll the changes, say, okay, let's give everyone some game time. Uruguay could have actually won this game. And I'm not joking, France were that disjointed at times, that poor, lack of control, lack of energy. They looked very flat. Apart from the first, I would say, 20 minutes. Admittedly, they did concede a try in that period, but they conceded early against New Zealand and turned it around. They looked flat. They didn't have that energy. Whereas Uruguay played as a team, not as individuals, solved problems as a team, worked hard. The forward pack worked hard. The back line did their defensive duty, and also with ball in hand were willing to run the hard yards. Fabien Galtier and Sean Edwards will not be pleased with this performance by the French, but there we go. It's finished 27 points to 12 in favour of France. Uruguay really gave them a test match, and I do think World Rugby needs to sort out the international calendar for Tier 2 and Tier 3 nations desperately, because Uruguay proved they can mix it with a Tier 1 nation. That is their best performance against a Tier 1 nation in their history. And Uruguay continue to improve. Proof's there. The proof is there that these Tier 2 and Tier 3 nations, the gap is closing rapidly. More professionalism in the game. We need to get, as a rugby fan, and as a rugby league fan as well, but as a rugby fan in this case, we need to get the Tier 2 and Tier 3 nations playing more competitive test matches against each other and higher ranking opposition in order for them to continue to improve. Because just imagine if Uruguay were playing more regularly. In years to come, this could and should have been a Uruguay win, but there you go. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on the game below, and I will have some more content for you very, very soon.